Good afternoon, good morning. My name is Molly, and in this part, we will be discussing just to revise and prepare for the exam. We'll look at the core concepts and then try and see the questions. So, firstly, I think the first question that we expect in the exam is enterprise architecture is often described as a discipline that brings order, okay, to complexity. So they are already defining for you the role of EA, is that it brings order to complexity. Now, they're saying discuss how the layered domains of EA, chapter 2, provide a structured approach to managing enterprise complexity, and how this structure fundamentally supports the notion of EA as a communication tool for achieving business alignment. So as a student, I think the chapter 2 that have been put here is meant to confuse us so that our minds begin to think of other things. And you are wondering what was discussed in chapter 2 or chapter 1. But basically, what this question is only asking is that you need to discuss, you need to know the layered domains of EA, and then also how is EA, how does EA fundamentally supports communication for achieving business alignment. This is the first question. So really, why EA based on managing the chaos? Okay, so EA's first job is to bring order to complexity. So you think of an enterprise as a giant puzzle with billions of pieces. The layered domains are the first level sorting mechanism. If we don't decompose the problem, we get what is called analysis paralysis, okay? Or worse off, you have siloed systems. So that is the main goal here. So as we try and answer this question, you need to think of the goal of EA and the implications if we don't implement EA. Okay, so this is what we are saying is that the first thing that we're saying is that it's meant to bring order to complexity, and then this is how we think of EA. All right, so now let's look deeper into how we need to answer this question. So what we're saying is the layered domains of EA architecture provides a crucial framework for managing organizational complexity by decomposing the vast enterprise into manageable, interconnected perspectives. This structured approach allows architects to focus on specific aspects of the enterprise while maintaining an understanding of their relationship as a whole. So the four layers and the structured view. So what we are saying is the domains move from what, that is the business, to how, as in terms of data or application, to where, that is technology. So business architecture is the driver. It defines capabilities, processes, and value streams. IT must always map back here, So applications or systems is where most of the money is spent. It's the project portfolio. And then technology is the foundation, okay? Technology is the foundation. If this is unstable, the entire structure shakes, right? So I'm just trying to explain these four-layered, the EA layered model, and that it has four key domains. So we are saying the business architecture focuses on what the enterprise does. It does business strategy, capability, process, organization, structure, and information and data needs. And then the data aspect or architecture focuses on logical, physical data assets and data management resources. It addresses what data is needed and where it is stored and how it is governed. The application systems architecture focuses on the portfolio of applications, systems, and their interactions, addressing how the business processes and data are automated and supported. So the application is basically, this is where most of the money is spent. Like I had mentioned, it's a project portfolio, okay? And then technology being the architecture that focuses on underlying hardware, operating system, networks, middleware, the foundation that enables the application. It addresses where and on what the system runs. So foundation is, technology is the foundation. So if this area is weak, then the entire structure shakes. So both the business, data, and application are built on technology. So this is what I would call the BDAT. So these, they help decompose the vast enterprise into manageable, interconnected perspectives, like we had mentioned. Managing complexity through decomposition. How does this happen? Okay, so we're saying this layering manages complexity into two primary ways. There's a vertical partitioning and the horizontal integration. So the vertical partitioning, this allows stakeholders to analyze and design within a specific layer without being immediately overwhelmed by the details of other layers. For instance, a process analyst can refine a business process without needing to know the specific network topology. Okay, so vertically, the business person can make changes to the process without being worried about the underlying technology. And then for horizontal integration, while partitioned, the layers are intrinsically linked. A change in the business strategy logically propagates downwards to changes in required data. That's layer 2, layer 3, and ultimately the infrastructure, which is technology. This structure enforces a disciplined end-to-end impact analysis when planning change. And then the other part of the question, so we've described the BDAT and the layered domains. The other part of the question was asking us to provide a structured approach to managing enterprise complex and how this structure fundamentally supports the notion of EA as a communication tool. Okay, so what we're saying is as a communication tool, this layered view is EA superpower. Okay, so it does this by focusing on translation. So business speaks in terms of strategy and market share. IT speaks in terms of APIs and cloud contracts. The layered artifacts are the Rosetta Stone. So for example, a CEO says we need better customer service. The EA translates this into this requires enhancing the customer relationship capability, okay, which needs a single customer master data standard, supported by integrating CRM and ERP systems hosted on our cloud platform technology. So this makes alignment explicit and measurable. Okay, so really the takeaway is that the layered domains of EA impose structural discipline on the complex enterprise, transforming the architecture from a simple collection of systems into a codified shared model. This model is a communication tool that enables diverse stakeholders to understand the current state, debate the future state, and make unified, aligned decisions. Okay, so as a tool for communication, we've said that EA bridges the historical gap between strategy and business thinking and technical execution. By having this shared language, each domain produces specific standardized artifacts, process maps, data models, application inventories that serve as a common language. They replace vague statements like we had already discussed here, where CEO will just say we need better customer service, with actually very precise descriptions, e.g. the customer onboarding business process requires integration between CRM and ERP. Yeah, and then necessitating a new customer master data management standard. And then also, apart from bridging the gap and presenting an opportunity for shared language between business and IT people, we're talking about stakeholder translation. So the model acts as a translation matrix between business leaders who engage primarily with business architecture, and then data stewards, they focus on data architecture, and then developers, they work primarily in application and technology architectures, and then the EA artifacts provides the threads that connects these domain-specific views. An EA artifact like application process map clearly communicates the business which processes are supported by which systems, allowing for informed prioritization and investment. Explicit alignment, by mapping artifacts between layers, mapping a business capability to mapping application, EA makes the alignment or misalignment between business need and IT capability explicit and measurable. This clarity is fundamental to strategic decision, ensuring that IT investments directly support strategic business objectives, which is the core goal of alignment. So I think we have really dealt extensively with question 1. I think the next question we will look at is question 2. And then we'll pick it from there. For now, I think let's take a small break, and then when we come back, we will look at question 2. Remember, there are 6 questions that we need to cover. So let's go for a break, and then we'll be back shortly. All right, so we can continue with question 2 and then we'll take another quick break. So question 2 says the city planning analog. And again, I always say, let's ignore this chapter 4. So the city planning provides a powerful mental model for enterprise architecture. Explain how this analog could illustrate the pragmatic, collaborative, and continuous nature of modern EA, emphasizing why such an approach is necessary rather than a one-off purely technical exercise. So, why city planning? Because an enterprise is an organic, evolving system, not a static machine you build once. Okay, a city is never finished. It must support its current citizens while planning for future growth and dealing with legacy infrastructure. This immediately counters the old school idea of big design upfront, bid off, which is an immediate path to irrelevance. Okay, so the city planning likens the enterprise to growing, evolving metropolis and enterprise architect to city planner. It's a powerful metaphor because a city like enterprise is a vast, complex, organic, and long-lived system that must simultaneously support current inhabitants while planning for future growth. Illustrating pragmatism, city planning, a city planner is pragmatic. They cannot simply bulldoze the city and start fresh. They must work with existing infrastructure, historic buildings, and established roads, existing utilities. Planning must be based on current reality, budget constraints, and political feasibility. EA parallel, the EA is equally pragmatic. Okay, the architect must deal with the current state of architecture, legacy systems, technical debt, ingrained processes. The goal is not theoretical perfection, but manageable improvement. This involves phased modernization, calculated trade-offs between speed and standardization, and prioritizing high-value, high-impact changes over wholesale replacement. It necessitates a just-enough design approach. And then city planning, for collaboration, we are saying a city planner must collaborate extensively with diverse stakeholders, citizens, IT teams, utilities, local government, and environmental groups, compliance and security. The plan is not successful unless it has a buy-in and serves the needs of these groups. So we are saying, just like as in city planning, you need to engage and involve all stakeholders. And then on the parallel, EA is inherently collaborative. The architect must engage business stakeholders to define the vision, project managers to define outlines, and developers to create designs. EA serves as communication hub that negotiates conflicting requirements, business desire for speed, IT need for security and standardization, and ensure the resulting architecture is feasible, desirable, and viable. And then to illustrate the continuous nature, we're saying a city plan is never fully finished. Cities are constantly growing, requiring new zoning laws, new infrastructure, fiber optics, smart grids, and continuous maintenance of the old. The plan is a living document that guides evolution. Then for EA, on the parallel, we are saying modern EA is a continuous discipline. The technology evolves rapidly. Cloud, AI, IoT, the business models shift, digital transformation, and regulations change. The architect is constantly monitoring the landscape and adjusting the visions and refining the standards. This ensures the architecture remains fit for purpose over a long term rather than becoming obsolete the moment a project is complete. So why a continuous pragmatic approach? A one-off purely technical exercise, big design upfront is insufficient for enterprise because, number one, scale and scope. Enterprises are too large and complex for a single comprehensive plan to ever be fully realized before obsolescence sets in. And then organic growth, business units and IT teams constantly launch new localized initiatives like ad hoc buildings in a city. Without continuous governance, the architecture quickly becomes fragmented, resulting in silos with redundant systems and crippling technical debt. And then strategic agility, we're saying that in today's market, the enterprise must be able to pivot quickly. A purely technical, rigid blueprint hinders agility. The continuous pragmatic EA approach focuses on defining and governing the seams and interfaces. That is the roads, the zoning laws between the systems, allowing individual projects to be developed and quickly and independently, provided they adhere to common architectural rules. All right, so that's how we can approach this question. You need to, as you're answering this question, you need to list the three stakeholder groups: the CEO, developer, compliance officer. You draw lines from them to a central city planner box, So the city planner doesn't build the city. They set the zoning laws and the road standards and the utility map. So just like the developers build the systems, they must adhere to the standards. The EA's job is to negotiate conflicts. They need for a new high-rise strategic project versus the capability of roads and utilities. EA is a political collaborative role as much as a technical one. Okay, so that's briefly about collaborative nature of EA and how we compare it with strategic planning. The key takeaways for this question really just underscores that EA is a strategic management discipline, not a technical drawing exercise. Its value lies in providing guided evolution and sustainable change through continuous collaboration and pragmatic phased implementation approaches. Okay. So I think that's pretty much about the question that dealt with the city planning and how it provides a powerful mental model for enterprise architecture. We've explained how this analog illustrates the pragmatic, how it's pragmatic in nature, how it's collaborative and continuous, and comparing it to EA. So we expect that in the exam you should be able to talk about pragmatism, that is pragmatic because you cannot bulldoze legacy districts. So just like a city planning, you cannot bulldoze legacy district. We must work with existing IT landscapes. Okay, and that is continuous in nature because the business environment, there are always these changing new regulations, competitors, technology, AI, quantum computing, these things change daily. So the EA framework is a living guide that must constantly be updated. And then with regards to the city versus machine, the city planning versus the machine, we're saying that why city planning? Because enterprise is an organic, evolving system. A city is never finished. So it must support current citizens while planning for the future. This immediately counters the old school of big design upfront. So that's about this question. We've already discussed the aspect of collaboration, collaborative in nature. And what we said is that it requires everybody to be involved. There are clear roles and responsibilities of the CEO, the developer, the compliance officers, and the role, like for example, the role of a planner is just to build the city. They set the zoning laws, the road standards, and the utility maps. Okay, the IT teams, they build the system. They must adhere to these standards. And yeah, so I think we can now move to question 3. Yes, so we move to question 3. I'll read the question and then we can have a discussion. This is the question 3. The operating model is defined as the most critical long-term business decision influencing IT. Discuss how the choice of an operating model profoundly impacts the focus and activities of both the strategic planning and technology optimization. So they are saying the operating model is identified as the most critical long-term business decision influencing IT. So remember the modules that we talked about earlier on, the unified, the replication, yes, and then we need to discuss the choice of an operating model and how it impacts the focus and activities of both the strategic planning and technology optimization. Yes, so this question is very easy. Let us have a discussion around this. Okay, so we can continue with question 3. The operating model is identified as the most critical long-term business decision influencing IT. Discuss how the choice of an operating model profoundly impacts the focus and activities of both strategic planning and technology optimization EA processes. Okay, so the operating model defines how an enterprise delivers value to its customers and how the firm is organized to execute that value delivery. It's a long-term business decision, often lasting decades, that dictates the required level of business process integration and standardization across the enterprise. The common operating model archetypes include diversification, replication, coordination, and unification. They are defined by the level of business process standardization and business process integration they require. Okay, so this choice is the most critical factor influencing IT because it directly dictates the required commonality, complexity, and interdependencies of supporting IT application infrastructure. Now, the impact, we're saying that the impact on strategic planning process is focused on defining the vision for the future state and creating a roadmap to get there. The operating model profoundly shapes this process. So for unification, we're saying standardization or integration. So the focus, it requires globally shared single instances of major systems, one ERP system for all users. That's under unification. And then the impact on strategic planning is that the focus planning aims to enforce unifying visions. The roadmaps, the outlines is dedicated to large-scale mandatory integration, data harmonization, decommissioning of redundant legacy systems. And some of its activities will include identifying core shared capabilities and planning for their centralized delivery. So that's what is involved in unification. And then diversification, it's low standardization and low integration. This allows business units to select systems and processes best suited for their market, specific market. It aims to define loose coupling principles and strong interfaces. The roadmap focuses on shared infrastructure and common security standards, not application integration. So in planning, you are doing planning for reusable technical components and platform APIs rather than mandatory shared business systems. The profound impact, the operating model is essential. It dictates the nature of IT portfolio that strategic planning must plan for. It determines whether the IT strategy should focus on centralizing control and mass standardization or enabling autonomy and rapid response diversification. EA's visions must directly reflect this business choice. Okay. And then for technology optimization, this is a process is focused on managing the complexity, the cost, the reliability of current state of architecture, and defining rules or rather standards for technology use. Okay, so unification, you're saying it requires maximum reliability and efficiency from shared mission critical systems. So the focus optimization aims at maximizing efficiency and lowering the total cost of ownership for shared platforms. So some of the activities involved is maybe aggressively rationalizing technology standards. The technology optimization process is reusable, rigorous for governance, vendor consolidation, and continuous cost reduction and the common platform. So I'm putting these chapter numbers in these answers so that you we can just focus on reading those specific chapters as we prepare for this exam. And then for optimization, for replication, it requires identical systems to be deployed cheaply and quickly across many independent units. Optimization aims for speed, repeatability. The activities, it's about defining a set of technology standards that can easily be deployed and supported, even if the total cost of the total number of systems is high. The technology optimization process develops and governs the common technology stack for duplication. Its profound impact is that the operating model directs the technology optimization processes for efforts. So if the model is unification, technology optimization focuses on deep consolidation. If it is replication, technology focuses on defining a stable, repeatable, packaged technology stack. If the model is not supported by the underlying technology standards, e.g. trying to achieve unification with highly diverse centralized IT infrastructure, the enterprise cannot execute its strategy effectively. So EA ensures the rules of technology and standards are engineered to support the business operating model. So I think that's pretty much about question 3. And maybe the key highlights when we are discussing this question and you are saying the operating model, critical business decision. So an operating model isn't about IT, okay? It's about how the firm operates. I'm just trying to give a quick summary of what we've discussed. So the operating model, it sits at the top of the hierarchy, defining the required level of standardization, integration across the business units. If the business chooses unification, e.g. global shared processes, IT must provide one ERP system. If it chooses diversification, autonomous subsidiaries, IT must enable specialized local systems. So the impact on strategic planning, we say strategic planning defines the future vision and the roadmap. If the model is unification, strategic planning focuses on its vision and concentration, data harmonization and decommissioning of redundant systems. So it's a war against complexity. The model is diversification, strategic planning focuses vision on defining robust APIs and shared services. The operating model tells what problems to solve and what future state to target. And then lastly, technology optimization on managing the current state, defining the rules and the standards. So if the model is unification, technology optimization main goal is ruthless efficiency and cost reduction on single massive platform. So governance is strict. If the model is replication, we're saying technology optimization's goal is to define a highly stable, reusable technology stack that can be deployed fast and cheap anywhere. All right, so I think maybe we can move to question 4, where we have to define differentiating the consideration and standards. So considerations and standards are both artifact types classified under rules in the CSV load model. Remember, you have the rules and then the structures and the considerations. So we need to differentiate clearly between their nature and the purpose and discuss how their combined and complementary application is essential for establishing robust architectural governance and enabling long-term enterprise evolution. Well, this question is quite a lot. So the main thing that we need to look at is the rules in the category of CSV load, and then the nature and purpose. Okay. nature and purpose of, and then the combined power of both governance and evolution. Then we should be able to answer this question. All right, so it's really a mouthful. The first part of the question is just a description that considerations and standards are a type of EA artifacts, and then can you differentiate clearly between their nature, okay, their nature and their purpose, okay, and discuss how their combined complementary application is essential for establishing architectural governance and enabling long-term enterprise evolution. So we'll start with the differentiation part, this question here that is asking us to differentiate. So we'll make some form of a table. As you can see, like we have the feature here, and then consideration and standards. We said that all these are within the rules category of the CLSV load model, defining the boundaries and principles for IT investment and development. So the nature of considerations, they come in form of principles or guidelines. These are qualitative and abstract, okay, enduring, non-negotiable architecture. I think this was discussed in part 1 when you looked at the overview. And then the standards, these are specifications or rules. They are concrete and quantitative, often technology specific and frequently updated. And then the purpose of consideration is to guide decision making based on long-term values, e.g. security, sustainability, and usability. Then for standards, they are there to mandate the use of specific technology products, versions, or patterns to ensure interoperability and efficiency and scale. So the examples for considerations, where you're saying all new ERP systems must be designed for resilience, auto-scaling. This is the principle of resilience. And then the standard, since we're saying it's very specific and quantitative, an example would be all new web application must use Azure Kubernetes service and deploy with Python 3. That's like very specific to a particular technology. And then how they are enforced is mandatory. Okay, principles. Deviations require formal, often high-level waiver. So if you're going to deviate from these, you need to get an approval, and then or a waiver. And then for the other one, they're also mandatory specifications. Adherence is required for project approval. Waivers are granted only when standard is demonstrably unfit for purpose. Then in terms of the timeline, the time horizon, strategic, considerations are usually strategic. They typically are stable for many years. And then the other ones, the standards, they are tactical, they are subject to frequent change as technology evolves and managed through a product life cycle. Okay, so the power of, when you look at the two, the power of rules category lies in the combined application of both artifacts. So you have the guiding intent, which is the considerations. Considerations establish the intent of the architecture. They define the why and what kind of enterprises do we want to be. For example, the considerations, data must be managed as a strategic asset. It's non-negotiable. Okay, it dictates the overall organizational value placed on data. And then governing implementation standards provide the mechanism for achieving that intent. The consideration mentioned above might lead to a set of standards requiring the use of specific master data management platform, mandating common data models and enforcing specific data quality metrics. Enabling robust architectural governance, clarity on decision making. When a project team proposes a technology, governance can ask, does this comply with specific standards, e.g. approved technology stack, or does this support the core considerations, the principle of low cost, total cost of ownership? This dual check provides robust decision control. Then for effective waiver process, a project may request a waiver for a standard using a non-standard database for a specific performance need. However, they cannot waive a consideration. The approval process can then ensure that the alternative chosen still upholds the higher level considerations, maintaining the architectural intent despite technical deviation. Enabling long-term evolution. Then stability of principles. Since considerations are stable, they provide long-term anchor. They ensure that even as standards change, e.g. moving from on-premise Oracle database standard to cloud-based Postgres standard, the underlying architecture principles are maintained. Flexibility of specification. So since all standards are technical, they can be updated without dismantling the entire architectural structure. This allows the enterprise to adopt new technologies, AI, machine learning tools, by simply updating relevant standards, moving a technology from experimental to standard, ensuring continuous and manageable evolution. Some of the key takeaways: considerations provide strategic stability and philosophical direction, while standards provide tactical agility and enforceable rules. Their complementarity is the cornerstone of effective architectural governance, allowing the enterprise to evolve technologically while remaining strategically stable. Wow, okay, this was quite a mouthful. But the only thing that I think we need to remember for this question, because our question, remember, they were asking us just to differentiate between their nature, their purpose, and how their combined and complementary application is essential for establishing robust governance and enabling long-term evolution. So one thing that we've identified is that both considerations and standards are rules. So they govern IT investment and decision making, but they operate at different altitudes. So considerations, we think of these as constitution or non-negotiable principles. They capture the spirit and intent of the architecture. They are few and rarely change. Okay, and then the standards, these are building codes or product specification. They are concrete, technology specific, and change frequently as technology evolves. Okay. For this one, I think you can think of it as you can draw a triangle diagram with C at the top and then long-lived S at the bottom, and many technical short-lived. All right. Their nature, we said, see example, all systems must be designed for security by design, high resilience. This is a philosophical enduring. S, example, use of Python, Postgres database hosted at AWS Region X. This is specific tactical. The consideration dictates why we care about resilience. The standard dictates how we achieve it using specific approved technology. And then the combined power of governance and evolution. This is essential, or this is the essence of strong governance. You can waive a standard, use a different database for performance reasons that we've already mentioned, but you cannot waive a consideration. So if you waive the database standard, you must prove your alternative still meets the resilience and security considerations. This allows for long-term evolution. So as we move from Oracle S1 to Postgres, SQL S2, the underlying considerations, resilience, remains the same, that is ensuring consistency in principles, even as technology changes. So you can draw a two-step gate. Gate 1, a standards check. Gate 2, considerations check. And then show a waiver by passing gate 1 but still needing to pass gate 2. All right. So that's about question 3. So we can move to that was question 4. We can move to question 5, where we will discuss the landscape, visions, and outlines. Okay. Question 5. All right. So we can proceed with question 5 for now. So let's read question 5.
Anyway, I don't know which road you're referring to, my brother More Mujans. Look at how heavy this traffic is, then you are talking about nonsense. COVID, watch. Eh? Look, we are stuck here. This is just a Kabango area for about 6 months. I've been here for almost 20 minutes now, if not 30. Each my home is just a small area. Look, what nonsense are you talking about? Huh? Anyway, I don't know which road you are referring to, my brother More Mujan. Look at how heavy this traffic is when you are talking about nonsense. COVID, watch. Eh? Look, we are stuck here. This is just a Kabango area for about 6 months. I've been here for almost 20 minutes now, if not 30. Each my home is just a small area. Look, what nonsense are you talking about? Huh?
Okay, so let's discuss how landscapes are essential for defining visions. And then also later we'll discuss how outlines serve as crucial project level bridge to move from these visions towards practical implementation. The landscapes are artifacts that provide factual evidence-based view of the current state of a domain within the enterprise. Application data landscapes. They are primary artifacts in the context technology dealing with what the enterprise currently owns, where complexity lies, and what cost structure is. Visions. So how landscapes inform visions? It's like visions are high level aspirational descriptions of the desired state of a domain. The digital customer engagement vision. They are inherently strategic and must address current pain points to justify investment. Identifying gaps and redundancy. Landscapes explicitly highlight areas of misalignment and redundancy and technical debt. For example, an application landscape might reveal 5 different customer relationship management systems across different business units. This factual evidence immediately justifies a vision for a single unified CRM. They also help with baseline, establishing the baseline. So a vision must be credible and achievable. The landscape provides a starting point. By clearly articulating the current state, it allows the EA team to define the current scope and complexity of the vision and transformation effort needed to get there. And then also for justifying investment, the landscape allows the EA team to quantify the cost of complexity. Maintaining 5 CRM system costs XX amount of dollars annually. This cost really serves as powerful business case, making the vision not merely an architectural ideal but a financial imperative. So an example, the application landscape shows 70% of transactions run on applications approaching end of life and unsupported languages. This provides the essential factual basis for technology modernization as a vision, And then outlines as the bridge from vision to implementations. While the vision defines where the enterprise is going, the outline serves as the critical project level bridge that translates that abstract's goal into actionable plan for IT initiatives. So an outline is a high level plan for a specific project. It scopes the initiatives, translates the required vision capabilities and deliverables, defines the key architectural constraints and integration points with existing architecture. Then bridging vision to IT initiatives requires translating aspirations into scope. The vision is broad. That's achieving a 360-degree view of the customer. The outline then breaks this down into concrete time-bound deliverables for a specific IT initiative. For example, phase 1 of the CI 360 customer view initiative will deliver a unified customer master data service and retire 2 redundant legacy data stores. Architectural design, defining architectural constraints. So the outline ensures that the IT initiatives adheres to necessary architectural rules, standards, and considerations. It constrains the project's technical choices, ensuring the resulting system will integrate smoothly into the broader target architecture defined by the vision. And then sequencing the roadmap. So multiple outlines are used to define the essential steps necessary to realize the entire vision. By linking IT initiatives to specific outlines, the EA ensures that every project contributes incrementally and coherently towards the final future state, preventing projects from becoming silos that deviate from strategic direction. So, really, I think that we've looked at the different areas. Landscapes are a mirror to reality. The EA journey is always about moving the enterprise from this current state to this future state. So the 3 artifacts that we've discussed, landscapes, visions, and outlines, provide the logic for transformation. So landscapes, these are factual reports on the current architecture. An example is application portfolio landscape. They serve as the essential factual basis for the vision. We don't plan a future state based on hunches. We plan it based on documented pain points and redundancies reviewed by landscapes. Example, the application landscape shows 60% of the applications are low value, high cost. This forces the creation of a portfolio rationalization. They justify the investment and make the business case. Okay, a large cluttered current state with highlighted problems, cost redundancy. And then the visions, we say visions set the strategic direction, which is the North Star. They are broad, aspirational. Outlines are project level. They translate high-level vision into concrete scope for an IT initiative. An example of the vision is achieve unified customer experience. An outline, an example is IT initiative X would deliver a foundational customer master data service by Q4, adhering to the new cloud standard. The outline is what makes the vision actionable, ensuring the project aligns perfectly with future architectural goals. So an example is like vision is a direction on a map, or the outline is the GPS route for a specific leg of the journey. Then the initiative is just a vehicle. All right, so I think we can focus on question 6, and then after question 6, it should be the last question. Then we should be able to wrap up. So let's go ahead and read through question 6 and try and understand what is expected of us. The, the uncertainty principle presents a fundamental challenge to architects. Okay. Yeah, so sorry guys, I was I was eating a mango. I was saying that we need to discuss the strategic crafting of management of visions for stability and designs, for precise, short-lived instructions, and allow EA practice to effectively navigate the principle. We also need to include how the concept of just enough design contributes to the balance. Okay. All right. So I think in summary, the principle is simple. High precision design equals low agility change, and vice versa. So if we offer over design, if we over design everything upfront, we create a rigid, expensive architecture that collapses under the first business change. The architect's job is not to eliminate uncertainty, but to manage the balance. So you can think of this as maybe a simple on a simple seesaw or scale, with precision, stability on one side and agility change on the other side. So for visions, for stability, you're saying that visions provide stability by defining the long-term invariant architecture. They define the ends of what we want to achieve, not the means of how we want to build it. So a stable vision, modular API-driven architecture allows hundreds of projects to proceed independently yet cohesively over many years. So you have to circle the stability side of the seesaw and label it as vision. And then for on the other side, circle the agility side of seesaw and label it design. So these designs are precise, short-lived instructions for specific systems. They are disposable and expected to change quickly. This allows us to use the latest, most agile technology for execution. Okay. We grant projects freedom to create their own design, provided it aligns with the overall vision and standards. So for just enough design, we are saying this is a practical execution. Only define what the vision and standards are fully. That's the parts that must be stable. The granular design are done just in time by the project team. We define the necessary seams and interfaces between systems, but let the project design the internal workings. This maximizes speed while minimizing architectural divergence. So you write visions on that seesaw that you had written. You write visions, stable and standard rules, just in time design. So visions plus standards plus just-in-time design. It's balanced EA. That's what we call it, balanced EA. Okay, so really what we've just been discussing all along in more detail is that the EA uncertainty states that the architecture of a domain is only stable when it's not being changed, and cohesively and conversely it is ineffective when it is being changed to meet new business needs. But simply put, the more precisely you define the architecture and reducing uncertainty, the more difficult and costly it is to change it, and vice versa. So this creates a fundamental trade-off between stability and agility. So you know that stability is about governance and standards and reliability, whilst agility is the speed, innovation, and change, being agile, the visions for stability and long-term guidance. Visions and chapters, the visions which are described in chapter 11 are very high level, long-lived architectural statements. So visions, they often last to 3 to 5 years. They describe the target and the end statement of a domain. They are strategically crafted to mitigate uncertainty principle by providing stability in direction. So visions define the invariant elements of architecture, the things that will not change. So those are the visions, regardless of the implementation technology. For example, cloud native data vision is a stable statement for intent, even if the specific cloud service provider or data warehouse technology changes frequently. And then decentralized decision making, by establishing a clear, well-documented vision, the project teams can make local short-term decisions without requiring constant EA oversight, provided they align with the vision's high-level goals. So this reduces the friction of change and increases agility as the North Star is clear. And then focusing on the investment, the visions channel the investment away from systems that perpetuate the current problematic state towards capabilities that realize the future desired state. This stabilizes the transformation effort over time. And then designs are detailed project-specific, short-lived architectural artifacts that provide precise instruction for implementation. So e.g. interface specification, data schemas for a specific systems. They are the most granular artifact in the CSV load model. So the designs are the most granular, they are on the lower end. So designs, they manage the uncertainty principles by providing agility in execution. So designs reduce uncertainty for development team, ensuring the implementation is precise, it meets the requirements and integrates correctly. They address the immediate technical questions. How do I build this component right now? And then unlike visions, designs are expected to change frequently and are often retired once the system component they describe is built. Their short lifespan allows for rapid, flexible adoption of new technologies and methodologies, e.g. microservices, new programming languages, without destabilizing the core architectural guidance. And then the principle of just enough design. The concept of just enough design is a practical EA philosophy for navigating the uncertainty principle. It defines the ideal balance point between stability and agility. What to design, which is just enough. The core architectural rules, vision, standards, considerations must be defined with enough rigor to provide the necessary stability and governance. This is long-lived guidance. What to leave flexible. The granular, specific technical designs should only be elaborated just in time for the project that needs them. Contributions to balance avoids over-engineering. It prevents architects from wasting resources creating complex designs for systems that may change or never be built, thus avoiding the rigidity imposed by big design upfront. Okay, and then it fosters agility by focusing on high-level visions and delaying detailed designs. The EA practice enables project teams to be agile and responsive. They adhere to strategic vision but have the freedom to select the best technology and create specific design that meets the immediate tactical need. A key takeaway in this question is that EA navigates the uncertainty principle by differentiating the stable long-term visions, which guide the what and why, and the flexible short-term designs, which dictate the how. Just enough design is a continuous balancing act that ensures enterprise is guided by a stable architectural foundation while maintaining the necessary flexibility for competitive change. All right, that marks the end of our revision for the exam. So some of the key topics the chapters that now you should go and revise. We need to look at chapter 1, chapter 2, and then we also need to look at the next chapter, which is chapter 3 and 4. Chapter 3 and 4, there will be a question on this. And then there's also a question on 5 and 6. 5 and 6, technology optimization. There will be a question on 8, 9, and 10. Okay, 8, 9, and 10. And then we also need to revise chapter 11, 12, and 13. 11, 12, and 13. And then, yeah, so that's pretty much. And then let's not forget chapter 5 with the uncertainty principle. And There's chapter 14 and 15 as well that we need to be comfortable with. With that said, you should be ready with your exams, and really thank you so much for your time and just helping me and yourself go through these questions and planning ahead and just preparing. The next thing is just to relax, settle down, don't panic. I think we've gone through all the fundamentals of what we expect, and once you go through the chapters, the notes, you should be good to go. Yeah, so thank you. Do leave us a comment, feedback, give us a like. We appreciate it. That's what keeps us going through and recording, and just knowing that we are moving together.